Thanks for tuning in to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. You know, when we're standing in corn stalks, Brian, of course we're thinking about wheat. And when we think about wheat, one of the things we like to talk about is putting tram lines in. You've still got time if you're planting wheat next spring to get tram lines set up on your farm. We'll show you how important they can be.
Well, when you talk about importance, Darren, I'm always thinking about weed control and what can I do to get better weed control. Today we want to show you what it really takes to control weeds out there, because I know we've got weed resistance that's popping up all over the place, and we want to kind of talk through some of the issues out there. We'll cover all that today.
Well, we've got a tough weed of the week to control, so that'll be a good one to focus on today, Brian. But first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
Darren and I get a lot of questions from non-farmers in the wintertime that say, well, there's all this snow out there. Doesn't it kill winter crops like winter wheat? How can it possibly survive the winter?
Well, I'm happy there's not snow that we're standing in right
Exactly.
now, Brian, because snow is a little cool.
It kind of looks like snow, though, behind us. We might be getting some of that yet today.
But when you think about snow, think about what it's like underneath it. Snow actually acts as insulation. And when you have a nice layer of snow over a winter crop, yeah, the snow is cold, but you think about the air temperature above that snowdrift. The air temperature can vary wildly. In our part of the world, we can get 20 or 30 below zero Fahrenheit pretty easy. While underneath that snow layer, the temperature stays fairly constant. And that's what's really good for winter crops, is having that insulation layer where you're going to have a constant temperature underneath.
One of the other very important things in order for the crops to survive the winter, like winter wheat, for example, or winter canola, is that they get a good start in the fall. And sometimes what'll happen in the fall is it will be really dry in some areas, or harvest will get delayed, and so farmers are a little late planting their fall seeded crops. And if those crops don't get a good start in the fall, they don't get some growth, they don't get the roots established, then they don't have as much that's kind of built up already so they can survive the winter. So that's a very, very important thing. So we talk a lot to farmers about having good, that early in the year, weed control, disease control, insect control. You can't have the plant damaged. You can't have it growing poorly going into the winter. Otherwise, chances are we're going to have winter kill.
Well, the other thing, Brian, is you want to have a good start in the spring. And I like having that snowfall out there because you know there's moisture. It's going to melt and soak into the soil and give that plant the early boost that it needs in the spring to get going. So just from the standpoint of getting some moisture, I think snow is a good thing to have out in the winter, so in the spring it's going to melt in your field. Now you look at where a lot of the winter crops are grown, and in our area it's some of the drier ground and arid climates, and those kind of areas really like having a little extra moisture around.
Well, they do, but the problem is they don't always get it. And so what'll happen sometimes is they might get some early snow, but then here it ends up January, they get some melting, the snow kind of disappears, and now they're just about back to the dirt, and that's not good for that winter crop. Also, we had some problems last year, for example, when it got exceptionally warm in February, way too early for our part of the country, and some of the plants actually started to green up. They thought it was spring. Well, it wasn't spring yet. A lot of cold temperatures came along after that and killed off some of that winter wheat that we had in our area. So that does get to be a real issue. It's very challenging for farmers. And you know, I was talking to a non-farmer just the other day, and he said, boy, you guys must be awful good gamblers or something, because, you know, last few years it's turned out pretty good, but I wouldn't want to take all that risk. And, you know, as a farmer, and, you know, for both Darren and me, we've been farmers our whole life, we've kind of gotten used to all that risk that there is out there. But again, what farmers will do to try to minimize the risk is they will get that crop growing good early in the fall and then just pray for some good snow over the winter to keep that insulated.
Two other quick points, Brian. With that snow, if you get some growth, now you have something to catch that snow out in your field. So that's another reason that early growth is important.
Yep.
The other thing, once you have snow over the crop, you don't have ice. And that's one thing that people worry about is, wow, if we get some freezing rain, instead of getting snow right away, we can have a layer of ice that doesn't allow oxygen through for those plants, and we can have some death underneath the ice.
Well, you know when I would like that ice, Darren, is when we've got our weed of the week out there. I think we could kill it with that ice. We'll tell you how to stop it more conventionally, though, on your farm coming up later in the show.
You expect a lot from this seed, and as it grows through each stage of development, Agriculture Liquid Fertilizers is there, feeding your crop exactly what it needs when it needs it. So no matter how you fertilize, no matter when, AgroLiquid efficiently brings all the nutrients your crop needs for a great harvest. From 1 kernel in the ground to 600 on the ear. For better yields and better quality, Agriculture Liquid Fertilizers.
Don't miss this year's free Ag PhD Winter Workshops. At Ag PhD, we're all about helping you raise better crops and earn more money on your farm. We'll talk about drought-proofing your crop, weed and rootworm resistance, how to improve your fertility program, and on-farm trials and field tests. We'll also tell you the good and bad about the new products and technologies on the market and give you our recommendations for pest control and a host of different crops. You'll get some insights on new farm regulations and tax laws going forward, and as always, you'll receive a free agronomy manual. Learn more and sign up today at agphd.com.
There are more mouths to feed than ever before. What are farmers doing to meet the challenge? They're using agronomically designed equipment from Case IH. Our Quadtrac technology, soil management, and planting systems are designed to foster a better growing environment that helps farmers maximize yield potential. And our deep understanding of agriculture is preparing them for the challenges ahead. Will you be ready?
I'm ready.
Go to caseih.com to learn more.
Everything is better to the power of Nutrisphere N. Proven to shield against leaching, volatilization, and denitrification, Nutrisphere N Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager helps you maximize the efficiency of your nitrogen applications. In fact, research shows that in 184 corn trials, Nutrisphere N increases yields by an average of 13.2 bushels per acre. Do the math for yourself. Contact your local fertilizer dealer today and take your operation to the power of Nutrisphere N.
For lower costs and higher production, Mandaco leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Twister's ease of maintenance is forgiving in rocks and has contour conformity equaling zero downtime. Our hydraulically adjusted coulter angles make residue management easier and less costly. Spring or fall, the Mandaco Twister vertical tillage unit is the new leader. See your Mandaco dealer. Visit northcountrymarketing.biz or call 877-915-8790.
Our big goal here at Ag PhD is to help you make more money on your farm. And in order to do that, you probably need to raise better crops. So when we start talking about wheat, one of the most important things with wheat is being able to go back out and spray multiple times for diseases, insects, weeds, and actually to even apply fertilizer a couple, 3 times during the season if necessary. Well, in order to be able to do all that, Darren, you're probably going to have tramlines.
Well, here's a couple things, Brad. First of all, I can hear people already saying, well, no problem. I'll just call in the plane. We'll aerially apply stuff, and you know what? That works great. There's nothing wrong with aerial application. It works just fine. And you know what? As a last resort, that's awesome. It's kind of nice to have that first resort of I can do it myself, just in case, you know what? The plane's all booked up. He can't get here timely. I've got something that's happening in my field like stripe rust popping up or an insect outbreak that I don't want to wait 2 days or something like that. I need to go out now. And if you've got that option to spray your own stuff, that's pretty cool too. Personally, I like it if you've got both options on the table. That way, you know, I've got 10,000 acres I got to get over. I can't spray that in one day. I can call in the plane. They can start on one end and I can start on the other and go. So I think you can look at it a couple different ways. You can say, well, the plane can do all this, Brian, and then it negates all the extra work that you're going to create for me. But wow, I just totally lose control of my operation.
Yeah, but what I look at is dollars and cents. And if, like in our wheat, we're going to go over it 6 times probably. That's 6 applications. If we call the plane in, around here, it costs us about $8 an acre every time the plane comes across. That's $48. If I do it myself, I figure it's going to cost 2 or 3. Let's even figure on the high side, figure $3 times 6, it's 18. Okay, so I got 48 for the plane versus 18 for myself. That's $30 an acre. Okay, so if I got 1,000 acres, it's $30,000 I made. And
Yep.
I guess it is money, and it's something that I think that I can do myself. Why would I not do it?
Well, when we talk about $100 an hour jobs, you think of how many acres you can get across. And if you figure the value being at $5 an acre that you save, $3 doing it yourself versus $8 for a plane, that's a pretty good job. That's easily $300 or $400 an hour that you can earn by spraying things yourself.
Yep.
Now, when we talk about tramlines, I know that I get a lot of response back from our show saying, I'm not set up for that. It sounds like a lot of work. How complicated is it?
Yeah, there's nothing much to it. Basically, basically there are companies out there that make these tramline systems, and let's say you've got an air seeder. All you're going to do is you're going to direct the seed that was going to go in those 2 rows where your track is, you direct them just to the outside of those 2 rows, so pushing that seed out. So now you basically have double the amount of seed in the rows next to it, which we actually want because we're going to try to compensate for having no seed in that track. And that's really all there is to it. It's nothing more than a diversion of seed when you need to get this thing set up. But what you have to do is get all your equipment on the same tracks. So you want to be running the same spray. If you got multiple sprayers on your farm, obviously it's nice when they all have the same boom width and that kind of thing. But if you get everything set up on your farm, it's really pretty simple.
Well, other questions with the tram lines are, all right, now I had a nice crop that shaded everything in and I have great weed control late in the season because I've got crop canopy. Now I've got these rows that are open.
Yeah,
what kind of problems am I going to run into there?
You do, but like on our farm, we've got 120-foot booms now, so we don't have very many tracks out there across an entire field. It's just not that big a deal. The other thing is by diverting that seed that was supposed to go in those tracks, you're going to have more plants, and those plants are going to grow a little taller and shade that row. Yes, it's not going to be perfect, but let's keep in mind, if we just skip those 2 rows right there, divert the seed over, those rows are still smaller than our 30-inch rows we have that we're standing in right now in corn or in soybeans.
All right, well, the other question too is, am I going to get more yield? Why would I do it? I mean, I realize I'm going to save some money and that's fine. Am I going to get more yield out of this? Is it going to encourage me to be out in the field more now that I have these tram lines?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect you're going to get any more yield. This isn't about getting more yield. This is about being able to go out and spray yourself and not damaging your crop when you go spray. So that's really what it comes down to. Instead of having the plane come in or you have to have the plane come in, now you can do the job yourself. You can save money that way. You can be more timely on stuff. And yeah, you might be more likely to do it since you've got these tram lines out there. You say, well, I got the tram lines anyway. I'll just go spray. It only takes a few hours. And then I solve my problem, whether it's weeds, insects, diseases, or fertility.
And honestly too, and I know some people are going to say, oh man, you guys are against aerial application. That's not the case at all. I think it's great, and I think it's got an awesome place in our business because you look at how many times most people are going across their wheat. It's not 6 times. It's maybe twice.
Yeah, it's not enough is the whole problem, and that's what we're trying to get at today is if you're going to intensively manage your wheat, the odds are extremely high. You're going to be going across a lot more than 2 times or even 3 times. You're going to need to go out there quite a few times, but heck, even if you only go out 2 or 3 times, it's still nice when you don't have to run over any wheat.
Well, one thing you may need to be out in your fields for is to control our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
For years, FarmLogic has been the easiest and most convenient way to keep up with your farming operations. Well, it just got better. Introducing FarmPad for your phone. You always have your phone with you, so entering records as they happen is as easy as a touch of a button. Chemical database, GPS, service records, and more. When you do it on the farm, save it on your phone and it's backed up forever. Call or visit farmlogic.com for a free trial and find out why FarmLogic is the best decision tool for the farm.
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more. Quick Roots is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work, enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients, including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Call TJ Technologies or your local dealer and get your Quick Roots today.
Back in 1966, Advanced Drainage Systems, Inc. was the first company to start manufacturing plastic agricultural drainage pipe in the United States. And today, ADS continues our leadership with superior pipe production and service capabilities. Our roots are firmly entrenched in the agriculture industry, and we're committed to helping farmers grow their business. With 54 manufacturing plants and 24 distribution yards throughout the world, you can count on ADS and our green striped pipe to be there when you need us. Advanced Drainage Systems, the green striped pipe you can count on.
You can't fill a barrel any fuller than its lowest stave, and your crops can't do any better than the nutrient that's in shortest supply. Your yield potential is only as good as the weakest nutrient in your fertilizer program. Give your crops more than just NPK. Prescription apply all the micronutrients your crop needs, each one customized for your crop's potential. MicroLink, linking yield to potential.
In the world of four-wheel drive tractors, there is no name more powerful than Steiger. The newest addition to the powerful Case IH Steiger line is the Steiger Rowtrack, available at Titan Machinery. Designed for row crop use, the Rowtrack provides more maneuverability and reduces compaction while maintaining power and performance. It's available with 16, 18, or 24-inch tracks for row spacing as narrow as 20 inches. Visit your Titan Machinery dealer today to learn more about the Case IH Steiger Rowtrack. Titan Machinery, better solutions.
Okay, Darren, we're here on a nice blustery winter day talking about what does it really take to control a weed? Well, you know, cold is going to control weeds just fine.
Well, freezing temperatures, sure, that will control annual weeds. Perennial weeds will survive it just fine because they've got that established root system. And that's something that you need to think about. There's really two different parts to the plant. There's the above ground portion and the below ground portion. We've got a lot of products that can burn off the above ground portion, but we've got very few products that do an effective job controlling that root system.
Okay, here's what I really wanted to get at today. When we talk about herbicides and weed control, it all starts with getting good coverage on the leaves. We want to get as much product as possible on the leaves. Then those leaves have to absorb that chemical. Then the weed has to move that chemical to the growing point or points. So grass plants, for example, just have one growing point, and broadleaf weeds, they have multiple growing points. Basically, at every stem that comes off the main stem, you're going to have a different growing point. So you've got to have a lot of weed killing power there in order to kill every single growing point. And even though grass, I said there is one growing point, it's a little different when we have perennial grasses like quackgrass, for example, that will have rhizomes below ground. You actually could have multiple growing points, but all the other growing points are going to be below ground. So it takes a lot of herbicide to get there. So the reason why we're talking about all this stuff today is we've had a lot of farmers who've had problems controlling weeds in the last few years. Some of that has had to do with resistance, but a lot of it, in my opinion, is just I don't think people have fully understood what it really takes to get good weed control.
All right, Brian, you already skipped over all kinds of things here. We're just jumping right to growing points and everything else. I want to go back to where you said, all right, you spray, it lands on leaves and it goes into the plant. Well, first of all, the leaf has all kinds of defense systems to try and stop that herbicide from getting in. Now, when we're spraying herbicides, we're typically spraying something with water. So we're putting 10 gallons of water or 15 gallons of water, with a small amount of herbicide and spraying it out there. So we have a water-based solution landing on a leaf that's often got a very oily surface. So first of all, that oily surface is going to repel water and hold it off. Then you think about that leaf when we get into dry conditions versus when we're in humid and wet conditions. We're in humid, wet conditions, that leaf is open and it's ready to take in more moisture, and this is a good thing. But when it gets dry, that leaf closes up and it does not want to try and take in things because it doesn't want to let out any water either.
Okay, in addition to that though, the leaf will actually try to prevent moisture loss if conditions get really hot and really dry for a long period of time. And then what ends up happening is that leaf will build up a thick, waxy leaf surface called the leaf cuticle. And we don't want that leaf cuticle to be really thick because what happens is it's very hard to get herbicide to penetrate through and actually get into the leaf. So that's where we talk about all these different spray adjuvants, and we know that methylated seed oil and crop oil can burn through that wax much better than non-ionic surfactant. So in the middle of the wintertime, I can't tell you exactly if you should use methylated seed oil or crop oil or non-ionic surfactant when you're mixing different herbicides together or even spraying a single herbicide. It's going to depend on the conditions that you have right when you're spraying.
All right, well, leaves have a couple other defense mechanisms too. Like take a velvet leaf, for example. On velvet leaf, it has a really dense mat of small little hairs. And when you see a real close-up of spraying onto a leaf, those little hairs will actually hold those droplets up, and many times they'll just dry up or evaporate or whatever in the summer, and they won't ever get down onto that leaf to soak in. So it's got a great defense mechanism, and you have to add adjuvants like Brian was saying to try and get past that.
One question that Darren and I get quite commonly is, what's the best time of day to spray? And I will always say, look, it doesn't matter when you spray exactly, as long as you can take wind and moisture out of the equation, and temperature too. So you got wind, temperature, and moisture. If those three things were constant, I don't really care that much when you spray. But we do have issues of moisture, for example, when it gets to be real early in the morning or late in the evening, there's a lot of dew. And obviously you are gonna have water on those leaves. You're gonna try to stick herbicide on there, and a lot of the herbicide's just gonna run off. So that really doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Temperature is another thing we talk about quite a bit. Like with Roundup, for example, we'll always tell people, look, don't even think about spraying Roundup if you've had freezing temperatures within a couple days before or even after you spray. And we would really prefer that you up the rate by 50% if your nighttime temps are going to be below 50 degrees. The reason why is, you talk about when we were able to get that herbicide into the plant a little earlier and we want to move it to the growing point, it moves a lot slower to the growing point when the conditions are cooler. Okay, when it moves slower, there's less herbicide that actually ends up reaching the growing point, and obviously that's not a good thing if you've got tough to control weeds.
Well, there's certainly a lot of things that go into controlling weeds effectively. So if you're looking at a weed problem out on your farm, there's several factors you need to consider. Talk with a good agronomist if you need some help to pick the right product and do the correct application.
Well, speaking of weed control, you're really going to need to get this one under control on your farm. Can you identify this week's weed?
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
You work to protect your farm's legacy and to keep it going. Introducing the Enlist Weed Control System, an advanced herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate for exceptional control of tough weeds. The next chapter begins.
Our weed of the week is Bur Cucumber. It's an annual vine. This, Darren, could be one of the tougher weeds that a farmer has to control.
Well, it is, Brian. It will climb up plants. It'll actually climb over full-grown corn plants. I mean, 10 feet tall, and the vine can weigh like 100 pounds almost. So it will actually kind of tackle the corn and lay it over a little bit. I mean, how do you even deal with that? It'll make it unharvestable.
Yes, but the way you have to deal with that is you've got to have a two-shot approach. It's like all the other tough weeds we talk about in Ag PhD. If you don't have something follow with a good post-emerge product, you are going to have problems.
Well, when we're looking at cornfields, and let's just start right there, if Balanced Flex is labeled in your state, that's the best way I can find to start. It does a pretty decent job of suppressing Bur Cucumber and at least holding it back so you can come back with something post-emerge like Status to wipe it out.
Yeah, but what if Balanced Flex is not labeled? Then what are you going to do?
Well, then you could try Verdict. If you've got some that are up already, Verdict will do a nice job burning it down. So that would be a good thing with the sharpen that's in there, plus you get a little bit of residual.
Yeah, the other thing I guess I would add is you can throw some atrazine in post-emerge with the Status. That will give you a little bit more residual and also help the Status give you a little bit better control.
All right, I'm going to throw you a curveball. In soybeans, I like STS soybeans. Now, haven't really heard much about them in 20 years, but there are more beans, especially in the Mid-South, that are coming with STS in with a Roundup or with a Liberty. And when you've got STS tolerance, you can use Synchrony, you can use Classic, because you'll need a little higher rates to be able to control this.
Otherwise, Cadet is okay. Post-emerge, pre-emerge, we'd suggest Authority MTZ. Otherwise, Sharpen can certainly burn down some Bur Cucumber, but you can't use a real high rate of Sharpen. I would use Sharpen, though, in wheat. Post-emerge, what do you suggest, Darren?
Well, I like Husky the best. We don't normally see this problem in wheat with Bur Cucumber, but Husky's got the best shot. Again, you have to start with the two-pass approach. There's nothing that's really going to wipe it out completely if you only have one shot. The other thing is, if you can use something with residual, that's going to help you because Bur Cucumber can come back late in the season, and that's where a lot of guys see, oh man, I thought I had it under control. Now I've got a problem at harvest time.
That's it for our Weed of the Week, but stay tuned. Iron Talk is coming up next.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
What are farmers doing to feed the planet? They're using Quadtrac technology, soil management, and planting systems from Case IH to foster a better growing environment that maximizes yield potential. Visit caseih.com to be ready.
Switching to a wider planter and still want to do trials on your farm? Can you do it? Well, it depends. We'll explain in today's Iron Talk. When we switched to a 24-row planter a few years back, we still wanted to be able to do field-scale trial work on our farm. So we ordered individual boxes on each row in order to accomplish that. If you're of the same mind, then that's one possibility for you. We'll also talk about our specialized plot planter in a future Iron Talk, which is the ideal way to do small, replicated work. However, for full field-scale work, here's another idea. AutoSteer with RTK guidance provides an opportunity to use a central fill unit with enough seed to plant half a field, leaving every other pass unplanted. Then you can fill your central seed hopper planter with variety number 2 and go back to plant the passes in between the ones you did originally. Now you have 24 rows of one hybrid followed by 24 rows of hybrid 2. Sounds like a little bit of a pain to me, but it could be done. What we're seeing more farmers do, though, is to work in cooperation with several other like-minded farmers and set up trials across multiple farm operations. By doing this, you get different rainfall, slightly different management practices, and in essence, multiple years of data in a single year. If you're working together with, say, 5 other farmers, where everyone does the same trial, you get pretty reliable data, better relationships with friends or neighbors, and ultimately better crops and profitability for everyone involved. You still have time to get a group started for trials that you'd like to do this spring, so give it a shot this year. It's one way to take out the variability you get when using large machinery to do trial work on your farm. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show. Don't miss this year's free Ag PhD Winter Workshops. At Ag PhD, we're all about helping you raise better crops and earn more money on your farm. We'll talk about drought-proofing your crop, weed and rootworm resistance, how to improve your fertility program, and on-farm trials and field tests. We'll also tell you the good and bad about the new products and technologies on the market, and give you our recommendations for pest control and a host of different crops. You'll get some insights on new farm regulations and tax laws going forward, and as always, you'll receive a free agronomy manual. Learn more and sign up today at agphd.com.
You expect a lot from this seed, and as it grows through each stage of development, Agriculture Liquid Fertilizers is there, feeding your crop exactly what it needs when it needs it. So no matter how you fertilize, no matter when, AgroLiquid efficiently brings all the nutrients your crop needs for a great harvest. From 1 kernel in the ground to 600 on the ear. For better yields and better quality, Agriculture Liquid Fertilizers.
Speed, strength, and efficiency make Capello corn heads a head above the rest. Built with polymer components that exceed industry standards, Capello corn heads continue to push the boundaries for maximizing grain retention while using less energy. Visit CapelloUSA.com and learn more about Capello's state-of-the-art chopping technology that cuts cleaner, allowing your horsepower to remain where it belongs, with your combine, so you can harvest faster in all weather conditions. Add to that an amazing folding feature, and it's clear to see why Capello is a head above the rest.
For years, FarmLogic has been the easiest and most convenient way to keep up with your farming operations. Well, it just got better. Introducing FarmPad for your phone. You always have your phone with you, so entering records as they happen is as easy as a touch of a button. Chemical database, GPS, service records, and more. When you do it on the farm, save it on your phone and it's backed up forever. Call or visit farmlogic.com for a free trial and find out why FarmLogic is the best decision tool for the farm.
There are more mouths to feed than ever before. What are farmers doing to meet the challenge? They're using agronomically designed equipment from Case IH. Our Quadtrac technology, soil management, and planting systems are designed to foster a better growing environment that helps farmers maximize yield potential. And our deep understanding of agriculture is preparing them for the challenges ahead. Will you be ready?
I'm ready.
Go to caseih.com to learn more.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
The all-new S-Cube commercial tender is the only tender on the market with poly tanks, giving you the capability to haul seed, fertilizer, water, or liquid fertilizer. Each cube can hold 300 units of seed, 2,000 gallons of liquid, or 300 cubic feet of fertilizer. Options include full functioning wireless remote, stainless steel conveyors, and self-contained hydraulics. Get yours today at Norwood Sales.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but be sure to join us again next time for another Iron Talk, Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, and a whole lot more. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Farmers focus on controlling weeds in their fields in order to produce more food. Abundant food supplies help Americans spend less of their income on food than nearly any other country in the world. To learn how farmers do it, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.